Before introducing our guest of honor, I would like to read two cables. One received from Ameen Rihani, the Mufti, Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. It reads as follows: Palestinian Arabs participate honoring Rihani, who devoted his life for the sake of Arab freedom and glory. The other is from His Excellency Emir Adil Arslan from London on behalf of the Arab princes there now. Best wishes for dear friend Rihani, champion national cause. Thank your League for honoring him. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to attempt to introduce our guest of honor is like painting the lily or gilding the rose. To us all, he's known as a poet and author and master of the pen. I would like to recommend to everybody who has not read his Desert of Fact and of Fiction to read it, because this is a real gem of literature. To my mind, perhaps the outstanding quality is that he has been called in as an advisor by more kings than any other living person. And yet, it may be said that it is true of him what Kipling said, that he is able to walk with kings and not lose the common touch. Ameen Rihani feels at home on a camel's back or on an Arabian steed or in an aeroplane. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to present to you our guest of honor and our dear friend, the Solon of Pricey, Ameen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the tribute of the Arab National League, in which you so kindly participate, makes me realize how inadequate is human speech to express the deepest of human emotion. It is a glowing and penetrating tribute. It goes down to the very springs of joy and gratitude and humility. I am truly overwhelmed, and I shall content myself with the pure and simple and most sincere expression of thanks. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I leave to your heart to read and interpret what is confusedly accented in my oath. I take refuge, however, in the comforting thought that the object of our devotion is always greater than any individual object of our admiration. And on this occasion, the object of our devotion is Arabia. Nay, it is the cause of progress and peace among the nations that are struggling for a place in the sun, as well as the nations that occupy vast spaces and more than natural places in the sun. Arabia is today one of those struggling nations. But Arabia, which is coming back, which is rising again to power, has no dream of conquest and does not desire any aggrandizement. The cause of peace and progress in the world implies national integrity and independence. It also implies national culture and international goodwill and cooperation. The Arabs are making noble efforts towards this end today. And this Arab revival is by no means alien or new to the Arab nation. It was the destiny of the Arabs in the past to carry the torch of civilization from the east to the west. It is the destiny of the Arabs today to carry that very same thought from the west to the east. But before this can be done, before Arabia can become an effective exponent of the best of the culture of the West in the Near East, its cardinal political objective has to be achieved. And this objective of integrity and independence is being achieved. Let no one doubt that. The progress up to the present time may have been slow. But from now on, for reasons which I shall make clear, it is bound to make speed. The Arab national movement, to understand it better, you should know something of its background. But before I dwell briefly upon its historical aspects, I wish to dispel the pain about the British government's policy of favoring a united Arabia. The fact is that neither the British government nor any of the powers, the greater powers of Europe, sincerely and honestly desire to see a united Arabia free and independent. And without the united Arabia, free, united in some form or other, and absolutely independent, there is little or no hope for peace in the Near East. To come now to the background of the Arab national movement, I should say that it is not an outcome of the World War, nor is it indebted directly or indirectly to any of the European powers. Before the World War, back in 1908, the Arabs had formed societies to free themselves from the Turks in Constantinople and in Cairo and in Baghdad. And at the beginning of this century, three of the Arab rulers in the peninsula conquered the Turks. Ibn Saud conquered them in Hassa, the Idrisi conquered them in Asir, the Imam Yahya conquered them in Al-Yaman and forced them to evacuate the peninsula. But in the north, in Syria and Palestine and Iraq, these secret societies I have referred to had for their aim the united Arabia and to bring all the Arabs in the effort and in the struggle for emancipation. The leaders of this movement, Muslims and Christians, held a convention in Paris in the spring of 1913 and adopted by a large majority the program of the Pan-Arab movement. A year after that, the World War was declared, and the interests of the Allies was seen to be closely associated with the interests of the Arabs. The British government, therefore, on behalf of the Allies, entered into negotiations with King Hussein. These negotiations were concluded in January 1916, and the first article of the agreement that was concluded between King Hussein and the representatives of the British government at that time in Cairo, the British government pledges itself to help the Arabs in the formation of an empire whose boundaries it states from Aleppo down to Aden and from the Gulf down to the Mediterranean Sea, Palestine included. But 4 months after that agreement, in May 1916, the British government and the French government entered into a secret agreement among themselves through their representatives from Marseille and Georges Tissot, by which they had divided the northern provinces and marked them green and red and blue zones and divided them as spheres of influence between them. The red zone, Iraq, was supposed to go to Great Britain, the green zone, Syria, to France. But the brown zone, Palestine, remained under discussion. They had not yet agreed about Palestine. I was told, however, by one of the officials of the Belgian government that during the World War, the Allies had promised Palestine to the King of Belgium. And they then promised it, of course, to the Arabs. And they promised it to the Jews. And there are certain French statesmen who still insist today that it was promised to France, the land of promise indeed. Arabs had no knowledge of this secret agreement. They took up arms against the Turks and joined the Allies according to the agreement of 1916 between King Hussein and the British government. And they did their obligation. They helped in the success of the Palestine campaign by protecting General Allenby's right wing. And during that campaign, Great Britain and France made a second pledge to the Arabs in the joint declaration that was issued in November 1916, in which they pledged themselves to help the people that were emancipated from the Turks to form national government, drawing their authority from the initiative and free choice of the native population. But the initiative and free choice of the native population was not taken into account when the Allies at the Council of San Remo divided the spoils of war and gave the lion's share in the form of mandate to Great Britain and France. That is the gloomy background of the mandate system of government. Hence the uprisings, the unrest, the disturbances, and the rebellion that took place in Iraq, in Syria, as well as in Palestine. The mandate, I must say, was not popular from the very beginning with any of those that were interested in it. The Arabs, as I have said, opposed it and fought against it, and the British and the French did not relish it because chiefly they had to give an account of their stewardship to the League of Nations. For that reason, after 8 years of disturbances in Iraq, the British government concluded a treaty with the Iraqi government in which the mandate was scrapped and in which the independence of Iraq was acknowledged and the interests of the Great Britain were defined and provided for Great Britain. A similar treaty 6 years later, during the month of last September, was concluded between France and Great Britain. It is similar in the main with the few exceptions. So that in Iraq and in Syria, we have scrapped the mandate and we have exchanged it for peace. We still have Palestine, however. In Palestine, the mandate still holds. Palestine still grows under a double system, a double yoke of the mandate and the Balfour Declaration. What is the British government going to do after the publication of the report of the last commission, the Peel Commission, is a new discussion. There are talks today, however, in British and British-inspired political circles of dividing Palestine between the Arabs and the Jews. Cantonization they call it. The word is from Switzerland, and the spirit is from Downing Street, from that ancient British source of the principle of colonization and divide and rule. Of all the solutions to the problem of Palestine, this idea of cantonization is by far the worst. It implies on the part of the authorities, responsible authorities, a lack of wisdom, to say nothing of justice, a lack of insight, to say nothing of honesty, a lack of consistence, to say nothing of a courage to face the fact. Cantonization, or dividing still more the lands of Arabia, the country that has suffered so much from the acquisitive and dominating passion of European imperialism. It is the flimsiest of all, I think, and the most fantastic of all ideas of exploitation. The Jews are opposed to it, the Arabs are opposed to it, even our friend Senator Copeland, who has had an access of Zionist spirituality last summer, and who is, I think, still under its glittering spell, is opposed to cantonization. The only possible and practical solution to the Palestinian problem, I think, is the one that has been offered by the Arabs through the last inquiry commission. The Arabs today will accept the status quo. What has been established in Palestine already consists of a complete national home. And the Arab will accept that, will consider it as an integral part of Palestine, will even help if it is needed to make it a success, to make it grow from within and not from without, if their three demands are complied. These demands have been published in the press, but I shall repeat them for the benefit of those that are not acquainted with them. They are three: to stop immigration absolutely, to stop the sale of land to the Jews chiefly by legislation, and to establish a national government following the example that has been set by the British in Baghdad and by the French in Damascus. That national representative government shall recognize the equal rights of the Arabs and the Jews. In it, the Jews and the Arabs will submit to the same laws, enjoying equal rights and performing equal obligations. If, however, the national home in Palestine is not sufficient to relieve the pressure upon Jewry in Central and Eastern Europe, then I say the Zionists can and ought to establish a national home somewhere else in the world. And why not a national home? Why not a national home in the United States of America? The Jews the government of this country seldom sends a deputy to the and there is a state secretary. 1/4 of the state executive is many times the size of Palestine, and it will serve the purpose of Palestine. When this question of Zionism is settled, and I earnestly hope that it will be soon, then Palestine will join, like Syria and Iraq, in the alliances which are being made today by Ibn Saud and the countries in the north. These alliances form the foundation of an Arab confederation. This confederation is the last stage in the movement for Pan-Arabism. It is the first step, I say, toward an Arab empire. Ibn Saud today is the recognized leader of this movement. But the movement has its international implications and complications. And before I dwell briefly upon them, I should revert again to history. During the Ottoman rule of the Ottoman Turks, especially in the reign of Sultan Abdul Hamid, the European powers, there was a sharp rivalry among the European powers for the protection and exploitation of the Near East. Even even Italy and Soviet Russia did not disguise their rivalry when France was recognized as the official protector of the greater element of the Christians, that is the Catholic element. Christians today are no longer the subject of any of the European powers' politics. The Near East Christians are now called minorities. They have become still part. But up to the present time, their influence in the Near East has been on the whole academic or of a moral nature. No material help of any kind. I might as well tell you this because there are some people who believe to the contrary. No material help of any kind, either from Russia or from Italy, has come to the Arabs in their struggle for independence. Of course, the Arabs will accept even a moral support in their opposition to the imperialist policy of Great Britain and France. And of such a character were the public declarations of Mussolini before the Abyssinian Council. And those public declarations were capitalized by the Arab politics. Even Ibn Saud himself was expressed, so much so in fact, that he did not hesitate to enter into friendly relations with Italy. Ibn Saud, in his commitment with the British, is not prevented from pursuing freely and unhampered the policy of his own. It is well also to note that he did not join in the sanctions against Italy during the Abyssinian conflict. But any help that comes from any of the European powers to the Arabs must go beyond the academic and the moral, as I said, to be any important. Now, how much can Mussolini or Italy go in this direction is a question. The real question, however, is how much of the pronouncements of Senor Mussolini are political and how much of those pronouncements is a true and sincere and earnest expression of a new European policy in the order. If Mussolini can hold up the new scale of justice today in Italy's relations with Oriental people, if he can give in practice as well as in theory the proof of a common measure to the natives and the Italians alike in Tripoli and Abyssinia, he will be either undermining the influence and the power of Great Britain and France or forcing them to adopt the like policy in the Near East. Ibn Saud today is on good terms with all the European powers. But in his policy for the unification of Arabia, he knows where the difficulties lie and where the benefits in this ever-changing game of international politics may be obtained. He keeps well informed of the currents and the cross-currents of world affairs. Even the undercurrents sometimes are not unknown to him. He has his own intelligence department, and he keeps in touch with the diplomatic and consular representatives of the powers he represents. He does not, however, play them one against the other as did the Sultan Abdul Hamid in his days. Any one of those representatives will tell you that whatever it says, he means it. He has a direct and forthright manner, and he is often bewildering and sounding in his directness and in his country. When I first met him in the desert in 1922, his first words to me were, "We have many reports against you, and they say that you have come into Arabia to preach Christianity to the Arabs. And they say that you have come to seek concessions in Arabia. And they say this and they say that. But we say, if there is any evil in the man, we know how to protect ourselves with them. If there is any good, we know how to benefit by it." That is Ibn Saud, and he won me to him from the very first interview I had with him, and from our first meeting in the desert 15 years ago till today. His star is still in the atmosphere. Ibn Saud today is considered the leader of the Pan-Arab movement. He has united 3/4 of Arabia, pacified it and brought it under his rule by the force of his arm. And now, in the depth of his wisdom, he sees that his arms in the north may not bring him to his objective, and he is getting around the great problem. He's getting around the great steel wall that is set up by the mandatory powers. He's getting around it by peace. So that we are having really now the beginnings of an Arab confederation, and which is going to lead to the Arab Empire. The Pan-Arab movement, I close in saying, can be summed up in 3 words: pacification, unification, education.
Broadcast in connection with the testimonial dinner to Ameen Rihani, Arab nationalist, given by Syrian and Arab Americans of this city. This program came to you direct from Town Hall Club at 123 West 43rd Street And the speakers were Dr. W.E. Hocking, Professor of Philosophy at Harvard University, Faris S. Malouf, Street Commissioner of Boston, and Dr. Isaac Hanouf, Arab delegate to London. Dr. F.I. Sitara of Brooklyn presided. This is Bert Dixon speaking and asking you to stand by for central announcement.
This is the Municipal Broadcasting Station, WNYC.